welcome back, 6th graders. Glad you made it back today. We're going to work on dividing fractions today, so entering a new topic. We're going to only do strategy number 1 on this list today. We're going to learn 2 in all, but I'm going to have you go ahead and title your page strategy number 1 and strategy number 2, because we're going to work the same problems with a different strategy tomorrow. And that'll save you a page and some writing. So if you would, go ahead and make this, I'll tell you the title for strategy number 2 tomorrow when we get to it. But for today, you'll make your title this, dividing fractions strategy number 1, visual models, and strategy number 2, which we'll get to tomorrow. Then you'll have these both on the same page and be able to see them work with both strategies. And hopefully that'll help. So after you've done that, you may put your pencil, pause now, write your titles down, and after you have done that, put your pencil in to mark your page, unpause, and just concentrate on the I do question. Alright, so before we get to the I do, let me just talk about dividing a little bit. Because we're going to be dividing fractions, and I want to make sure, sometimes when you throw fractions in the mix, it makes all the problems just seem more confusing. So first thing I want to do is just talk about, when do you divide ever in math? Like, what kind of things are you looking for in a problem that make you know to divide? So this is just a classic division problem you probably learned how to do in like 3rd grade, right? The cooler Gatorade holds 56 pints of Gatorade. Most players drink 2 pints in a game. How many players can the cooler serve, right? So this is a classic division question, right? It's like you have a certain amount of something. I have these 56 pints. And we're going to make it into groups that are this big, or servings that are this big. That's how you know you're dividing, right? Divide it into groups of 2 cups. So we're just going to take that 56 and do 2, 2, 2, 2, as many times as we can, and we're going to see how many groups we could make, right? So that's like your classic 56 divided by 2 equals, and you would work it out and figure it out. That's how you know when to divide. So looking at this problem over here with the bag of Chex Mix, so the bag of snack mix has a suggested serving size of 1/8 of a gallon. There is 3/4 of a gallon of the snack mix left. How many servings is that? So I know it has fractions in it, but that's basically the same question, right? It's like I have this certain amount of the snack mix, 3/4 of a gallon, and we're going to divide it into groups that are this big, or servings that are this big, right? And that's how you know dividing is the thing to do. It's when you're asked to take something and divide it into groups. So we're going to take this 3/4 of a gallon, and we're going to divide it into groups that hold 1/8 of a gallon, however many times we can do that, until we've used it all up. And that's going to be our answer. So it's really like the same kind of question as this. It just has fractions in it, and sometimes I know fractions make things more intimidating. And so I just wanted to talk about that first. So these are going to be dividing questions. And we're going to go ahead and start with the same one, with that bag of snack mix that I just talked about. So there's 3/4 of a, oops, I rewrote the wrong word, 3/4 of a gallon, and we're going to put it in servings that are 1/8 of a gallon. So we're going to use strategy number 1 today, which is just to make a visual model to help understand this. This is a longer strategy, but one that I think often makes more sense at first, because it lets you see what you're doing rather than just making a calculation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and draw that, like a rough sketch of that snack mix bag. And there's 3/4 of a gallon in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a representation of 3/4, if I may. I'm going to color it in yellow because that's easier to write on top of. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so that's how much of the snack mix we have. 3/4 of a gallon. We'll just say this is 1/4, this is 2/4, and this is 3/4, and that's how much we have. Right? So we're going to divide this into groups that are each 1/8 of a cup. So if you imagine we're going to take that snack mix out, and they're each serving we make, or each group we make, is going to be 1/8 of a cup. So from here I can't really visualize that, right? Because I only see fourths in what I've got, and I need to see eighths. So I can use some equivalent fractions, though, and help me imagine this being eighths, right? Like, probably 2/4 is the easiest. You know 2/4 is also equivalent to 4/8, right? Those are equivalent fractions. They're all equal to just a half. 1/4 is equivalent to 2/8, right? If I kind of like just take this in half, then 1/4 is 2/8, and that's what we're going to end up doing, and 3/4 is 6/8. So really what I want to do is imagine, instead of now seeing this 3/4 as fourths, if I imagine it as being eighths, an eighth is half of a fourth. So now I could say to myself, well, I have 3/4 of a gallon of snack mix, or I could just say I have 6/8 of a gallon of snack mix. And if I do, if we make it into those eighths, it's a lot easier to figure out how many servings I can make, right? Because each group is going to be 1/8. And each partition I've made here is 1/8 as well, right? These are all 1/8 servings of it. And so I can just count how many servings is that? Well, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where each one is an eighth. So what I've done is I've taken 3/4, divided it into groups that are 1/8, and I have gotten an answer of 6. I can make 6 servings from that snack mix. I know you probably don't look at these two fractions and think to yourself, when I divide them, they're going to equal 6. But they do. That's how it works, right? I started with this much. I made groups this size, and I could make 6 of them. So not too bad of a strategy. It just takes a while, and you've got to be able to visualize your fractions very well. All right, grab your math notebook, and go ahead and pause and write down the we do question now. Okay, so remember, when you do what we do, you have a couple of choices, right? One are, if you think you already know how to do this, you're welcome to work it out now, then play the rest of the video and see how you did. You're also welcome to work it out as I work it out. Let me do a little bit, press pause, then you write it down, then unpause, let me do a little more, then pause, write it down, and so on. You're also welcome to just watch me do the whole thing and then copy it down at the end. Whichever one's going to help you understand the best is what I want you to do. Okay? So here's my situation. It's very similar to the snack mix. I've got, Stella has 3/4 of a bowl of punch. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that. Just like last time, we got 3/4, so I'm going to draw that first. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, and 3/4 is left. Okay, so 3/4 are full. I'm going to go ahead and mark my partitions. This one was 1/4, 2/4, 3/4 is full. And we're making it into groups or servings that are 1/10 of the bowl. So those are pretty small. So we're going to make tenths. Now that's difficult to do here because I see fourths, I don't see tenths. So I've got to start to visualize where the tenths may be. So the easiest spot, I think, is to start in the middle. Right? If I were to ask this middle one, how many tenths is that? Well, half, or 2/4, that's equal to 5/10. The other ones are not so easy. 1/4 is actually not equal to any certain amount of tenths. If you try to partition that or do any strategy to find an equivalent fraction from fourths to tenths, you won't be able to find one. So it's actually not, I'm not going to have a partition of tenths there. So what I'm going to have to do, this is a little bit tricky. I know where 5/10 is, and I'm going to ignore my fourths for the time being and just write in my tenths. So I'm going to try to get up to where I have 5/10 right here. So it kind of works out like this. It's like 1, 2 is a little less than a fourth. 3 is a little more than a fourth. 4, and then 5 is already here. Right, so that's about where my tenths would be. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I'm sorry, this is all 1. So you got to ignore the black line kind of. And that's my like middle tenth. So only looking at the red partitions, I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tenths so far, up to the half. Now the same thing is going to happen with 3/4. There's not going to be an exact number of tenths that's there. So it is, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, of course. 10 tenths would fill it up. Right? So I'm not going to end up with a perfect answer here, right? If I look at my tenths, I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you'll notice I can't make an entire next one, but I can make about half of one. Right? So I can make 7, and I can make halfway up to the next red partition. So it looks like she can make 7 1/2 servings with the model. And if we write out our math there, that is to say 3/4 of a bowl of punch divided into groups of 1/10 is 7 1/2, or 7 1/2 servings. So that one's tricky, especially when they don't line up perfectly, but that is going to happen a good bit of the time. So that is how you use a visual model to solve a fraction division problem. It is challenging for sure. We're going to learn a second strategy tomorrow that is faster and easier to do, but doesn't show you as clearly exactly what you're doing. So I hope this video made sense to you. If it didn't, please take the time to go ahead back and look at the I do or the we do again, and maybe when you see it explained the second time, now that you've seen a few examples, it will help a bit tomorrow. When you have gotten your we do written down in your notes and you feel very good about it, you are all set and ready to move on to the next step.